visible illnesses, realize that you can still lead a pretty healthy and active lifestyle. It's just not going to be the one that you had envisioned for yourself. But I just realized I have no idea if I've got the volume up on this. Oops. Oh, I do. Um, I this is going to be a little discombobulated. I really did not plan on talking about anxiety until 4:58 Alaska time. I had I had other notes all printed out about lightening up, but one of my Twitter people, I'm not going to out him. If he sees this and wants to out himself, that's his choice, but I'm not going to out him. But one of my Twitter people is really struggling with anxiety tonight, and I can't help but empathize because anxiety sucks. And it's funny. I never thought of myself as an anxious person, but you know what I've come to discover? I'm horrifically anxious. I'm just used to a really high level. This is so sad, but I'm used to a very high level of anxiety. So that was my norm for a long time. So I didn't think anything of it. But a couple years ago, I started getting a lot more aware. Like, wait a minute, this can't be right. I shouldn't feel like this all the time. And I realized, much to my horror, I actually looked it up. You can get addicted to the biochemistry of being anxious. Isn't that crazy? But adrenaline junkies, it's the same kind of thing. So let's talk about anxiety. This information is from the Mayo Clinic and lifehack.org. What are the symptoms? Now, if you if you're like I used to be and so completely unself-aware that you have no idea that you're a nervous Nelly, it really is so funny to me that I I had no clue. But some of the symptoms of anxiety, and I would get these symptoms like when I was facing something I knew would give me anxiety, like flying is a big anxious thing for me because I don't like to sit still that long and I'm completely out of control and there's nothing I can do about any of it. So flying has always been a really anxious thing for me. And I would get symptoms like fatigue, restlessness, sweat, insomnia, trembling. Oh, insomnia, by the way, insomnia. Yes, I sit there, my mind just goes and goes and goes and goes. It drives me crazy. Trembling. Now, I'll be honest, I don't get that very often and I'm grateful, but hypervigilance, absolutely. I drive myself crazy. Irritability. Well, sure. I I'm on high alert. I'm amped up. I'm ready. I'm ready for something to go wrong. Which is obviously not that's not a good life choice. Racing unwanted thoughts. Oh my god, I'm going to get on this damn plane. It's going to crash. We're all going to die. We're going to go up in a big ball of fire. Yes, I know that that's very unlikely. It doesn't matter. It's still something that gives me anxiety. Sensation of an abnormal heartbeat. I have gotten so much better, thank goodness. But I used to be so bad that if I didn't take anti-anxiety meds far enough in advance before I left for the airport, I'm only like 5 miles from the airport, but the entire way there, I would be in my mind going, "Oh my god, my heart's racing. Am I having a heart attack?" My heart would just be really fast and pounding really hard in my chest, and it was like, "Oh crap. What if I get on this plane and I'm really having a heart attack?" And I don't even know what caused it. One day I just realized, "Oh my god, this is so ridiculous. This is absolute get a grip on yourself." But that was the first time I realized just how bad my anxiety was. Now that was anxiety about flying, which again is something that's always been stressful for me. And side note, it's something I've been exposed to since I was a little kid because if you grew up in Alaska like I did, if you go anywhere outside, you're flying. Yeah, and that's what we call y'all outside or the lower 48. Anyway, how do you cope? How do you cope with all this? Because I've gotten really good at recognizing my personal symptoms. And I know I'm like, as soon as I start to feel both the emotional and the physical response that is my personal anxiety thing, I feel it. And as soon as I feel it, I start trying to, whoa, you need to stop. And I start using some coping techniques. So the first thing you need to understand, and I know it's hard when you're in the midst of it, but you need to know that this too shall pass. And chances are you're going to be fine. You really will. Think of all the times you've been anxious in the past and how many times has that come true? Probably not very many. I'm not telling you to disregard those feelings because if you have anxiety, one of the worst things that you can do is try to stuff it down. It just makes it worse. You just need to acknowledge and like, okay, but you know what? I'm going to be fine. This is going to be fine. When I get on the airplane, I know chances are, overwhelming odds are I'm going to be fine. So I literally will have that dialogue in my head. I don't care how silly it sounds to you. It makes a tremendous difference for me. It makes I I used to count when I would travel somewhere. I used to count how many takeoffs and landings I had to survive to make the trip. That's how bad my anxiety used to be around travel. Now, I still if it's a long trip like to go to Texas or something, I prefer to take anxiety meds before I get on the plane. I don't need to take them well in advance anymore. But if I don't have anything at all, that my clinic left me with nothing on my last trip to Texas, and I broke out in hives, which was fun to land as an Alaskan, landing in the Texas heat and breaking out in hives. But it is what it is. The good news is I have gotten good at coping with this, and I can recognize those symptoms. And I know that whole trip that I had no anxiety meds, which by the way, they didn't tell me till 4 hours before my flight left that they weren't going to refill it. They just kept stringing me along. So I was already in a state before I got to the airport. But I still managed to make the trip pretty well. And it wasn't a lot of hives. It was just a few. You need to remember that regardless of the outcome, maybe you have to give a presentation and you're just not good at that and you're scared and you're unsure. And maybe you like bust your ass on the stage and you're just mortified. Well, okay, but you're embarrassed, sure. But does that have any impact on who you are as a person? Because it shouldn't. So you embarrassed yourself. I mean, shit happens. We all do it. Everybody in the audience who saw you bust your ass, they've all embarrassed themselves too. That's part of life. You can't let that stuff, you can't let that impact you too much. Stop. Take a few deep breaths and remind yourself this is just temporary. Number 2, focus on your inner being. Like I said, I know my symptoms. I can within seconds, I can recognize what's going on in my body and with my emotions. And it's a very specific feeling for me. And as soon as I feel it, and it really does just well up and overwhelm me so fast. But as soon as I feel it start to well up, I start trying to head it off. I start working on it. Find your tools, mantras. You know what my mantra is? Laugh all you want. It works. Just keep swimming. That's right. From Finding Nemo. Just keep swimming. Side note, I don't swim. I don't swim much, but when when I'm really struggling physically, that makes me struggle emotionally. And people will ask me, how do I push myself through? I've learned through moderate exercise. I've learned that lesson the hard way, but I do because I got to just keep swimming because I can't start my day. I can't start my day by quitting. I make sure to keep my workouts within the parameters that my medical team has set for me. And I do that pretty much I take Sundays off because rest days are important, but I do that every day. I don't care how bad I feel. I don't care how long it takes me to talk myself into doing it. I do it. That's one of my that's one of my tools. That's one of the things I use to help me cope with all of this. I just keep swimming. Deep breathing. Deep breathing is tremendous. I like to sit somewhere and just throw my arms open and lift my head up and say, okay, God, I need a little help here. And I just take a few deep breaths and that helps me remember that I can't control everything. God is in charge. God's got me. I don't need to worry so much. But find what works for you. And as soon as you recognize those feelings, put that mantra into place. You don't have to say it out loud. No one has to know you're doing any of this. You can do it in the middle of an airport. Nobody knows. Trust me, because they do it a lot. Oh, I used to do it a lot. I haven't traveled much lately. Anyway, number 3, tell your inner critic to stuff it. What you say to yourself matters. When I used to tell myself getting on an airplane, "Oh my god, we're all gonna die, we're all gonna die, it's gonna go down in a big ball of flames, it's gonna be horrible." Well, what the hell what the hell kind of flight could I possibly had other than a horribly nervous, tense, anxious flight? You've got to watch what you say to yourself. Keep quotes, affirmations handy. Put sticky notes on your I don't know, on your bathroom mirror. I have them all over. Where's a short one I can read? I have them all over. At my little desk here, it has I can close this up, and the little doors have sticky notes with positive quotes or stuff I need to remember, all over it. And I like this stuff because when I'm stressed out, when I'm working and I get anxious, I can look like, okay, refocus, connect, breathe, and move on. I know my tools. I know when my inner critic gets started. I have to keep these positive things in my face, essentially. And you know what? I have reminders set in my phone. I don't always have the alarms on, I'll be honest, but I'll have a reminder set in my phone. Be focused, be strong. Whatever you need to, whatever you want to work on with yourself, put an alarm in your phone because then every day when that alarm goes off, it'll remind you to check in with that. How am I doing on being focused? Yeah, that's a struggle for me. The answer to that's not that great usually because I have a squirrel brain. But you gotta put the positivity in your face. No one's gonna do this for you. And look, as somebody with some severe health issues, I don't like taking pain pills. And I don't like taking any meds on a regular basis. I understand the thyroid and stuff. I get that, but I do resent having to take it. But you know what I resent more? The way that the medical community treats me when I ask for it. So I can't rely. There's no way in hell I could rely on trying to medicate my anxiety away. I can't get enough freaking anxiety meds. It's just the way it is. And you know what? I'm okay with that to a degree because my doctors know that I do work on myself. My doctors know that I put in the time, I put in the effort. So it pisses me off when they can't refill me or won't well, they can't. The clinic won't. It's anyway, that's another story. Um it's your choice. It's your choice to feel stressed or empowered by any given situation. It just is. I could sit there and tell myself, "Oh my god, this plane is gonna crash. We're all gonna die in a big ball of fire." Or I could tell myself, "Oh my gosh, I'm going on a trip and I'm gonna meet up with my girlfriends and we're gonna have the best time and it's gonna be so amazing." Well, guess what? When I tell myself that, I have a hell of a lot better flight. I have a much better trip. I land in a hell of a lot better state of mind than when I torture myself with, "Oh my god, how many takeoffs and landings do I have to survive to get to Texas?" It's really sad, but that's how I fly. You need to also remember that when you're anxious, a lot of those sensations, a lot of that physicality, it's very similar to how you feel when you're excited. So instead of focusing on anxious thoughts like we're all going to die in a ball of flames, I get to go on vacation. That is so cool. I am so privileged that I'm in a situation that I can afford to go on vacation. I'm lucky that my friends are able to all gather in one place and I can go and spend the weekend with them. That's my choice. That's my choice to turn that physiological response into something positive and make it something I'm really happy and excited about. It's all a choice at the end of the day. Number 4, you need to get healthy. Exercise reduces stress. It just does. And it builds confidence. And the more confidence you have, the easier it's going to be for you to deal with your anxiety. Trust me on this. I know anxiety, unfortunately. And you know what else matters? Nutrition. It really does. Foods high in vitamin B help keep anxiety at bay. That's beef, chicken, leafy greens, nuts, citrus. Sleep. You've got to sleep. You've got to sleep. And it's so hard when you're riddled with anxiety and you're laying there and your mind's churning. So, you know what I do? I have a journal that I keep next to my bed. And it's physically not my healthiest habit because I end up hunched over on the edge of my bed. I'm leaned over so that the journal's in enough of my little nightstand light that I can see my page and I sit there and I write until I'm done writing. Some days it's three-quarters of a page, sometimes it's 2, 3 pages. I just write till I'm done. But that journal, it helps me so much because it allows me to get all the day's stresses and anxiety factors. It lets me get them off my chest. And then I picked up a great habit. I think I got it from Chalene Johnson, but I'm not positive. But I'll go ahead and give her credit. So I've just gotten my whole day out, and maybe it's not been the best day, and I'm so frustrated and anxious, and I get it all out on my journal. Well, then I finish that with 3 things that I'm grateful for because that's going to reset my brain. I've got this all off my chest now, and now I reset my brain onto something I'm happy about, something that I'm appreciative, I'm grateful for. It helps me recognize that I do have a lot of blessings in my life, even when things are tough. A journal A journal is, in my opinion, the best cheap therapy you can get. Do some yoga. There's a ton of really good bedtime yoga out there. There's a ton of good yoga out there for anxiety. Go onto YouTube and just type in yoga, comma, anxiety, yoga, comma, sleep. Look around a little bit. I personally, my 2 favorite yogis are Yoga with Bird and Yoga with Adrian. So that's who I would recommend. But you may not like either of them. Tai Chi is really good for anxiety. Meditate. You've got to learn how to quiet, especially if you've got anxiety. You have to learn how to control that and quiet your mind. Have you ever, and I got this from a book that I read, but have you ever asked yourself when that starts, that negative, bitchy voice starts in the back of your head? Have you ever just thought, who is that? Because if that's you, why are you you wouldn't be that mean to anybody else, would you? So why are you where'd that voice come from? I don't know. I think about that sometimes. It kind of trips me out. It's an interesting thought. It's a good thing to journal about, by the way. You know what else? Shut your electronics down. Now, I am not good at this at all, but I did have a counselor kind of give me a little bit of grace on this because the last thing I do with my phone at night is I find either I pull up an Audible book. Been listening to a really good one called The Case for Christ, but it's an investigative journalist investigated the story of Jesus and ended up a believer. It's just really, I thought it was very interesting, but I've been listening to that a lot lately, and I say a lot because I fall asleep. That's the point. So I'll set the timer, and then the next day I rewind till I figure okay, I remember this part. I set my timer again. It takes me a long time to get through a book that way, but it gives me something else to focus on. And it helps quiet my anxiety. And I got permission from a counselor because I'm on there with a purpose. I'm not just scrolling, but it's still bad. You should turn off your electronics at least bare minimum 30 minutes. That's the smallest number I've ever read. And I'll be honest, I've read that only a couple of places. Most of them say 60 to 90 minutes, but really that's not practical for a lot of people. Anyway, finally, the best thing for you to cope with anxiety is quit giving your freaking power away. Don't ever give your power away to anybody. You need to learn to let go of what you cannot control. Why in the hell are you getting anxious about things that are out of your control? There's nothing at all you can do about it. That is such a waste of your energy and your focus. For goodness sakes, find a hobby. Put that energy into something a lot better than that. You need to remember that other people's opinions of you, they're irrelevant. They only carry as much weight as you choose to allow that person to have in your life. And frankly, if they're giving you a lot of stress and anxiety, why the hell don't give them anyway? Kick them the hell down the road. You don't got time for that crap. If people don't lift you up, you don't need them. It's not that I expect somebody to just sit there and always be perky cheerleader. Of course not. But if somebody brings you down a lot more often than they lift you up, why in the hell are you wasting your time with them? Because they're not going to change. And all that's going to do, putting up with that, it's going to make your struggle with anxiety a lot worse. And I know because I used to put up with that. Anyway, that's all I have for tonight. I have rambled and babbled at y'all long enough. The smoke, the smoke continues. It did lift considerably. Our air quality dropped down a little under 100 today, so that was exciting. But last time I checked, it was like 175 again. So my lungs hurt, my eyes hurt, my body's cranky. What are you gonna do? It's a bunch of. I mean, there's like 2 million acres in the state. Almost 2 million acres in the state are on fire. And by the way, guys, it's lightning strikes. The vast majority of it's from lightning. So I posted something the other day and someone was like, people are horrible. I'm like, well, okay, yes, but not in this situation. There's plenty of other things to blame people for that they did stupid, but this is it's nature. We had a hell of a storm blow through here last night, but anyway, what are you gonna do? It is what it is. I can't control it. I just have to make the best of it. Y'all have a great night. I will be back Wednesday at 5 o'clock Alaska time. You have any questions, drop me a line on Twitter at Alaskan Courtney. I try to be very responsive. Take care. Thanks. Good night.